Hello, I am Dr. Rasan Harris, CEO of Citizens Committee for New York City, also known as Citizens NYC. Thank you for joining me for this CEO session. The goal of this is to really have a bit of an informal conversation about critical leadership skills. Our first conversation that I had was with my colleague Andres Pazmino, and we talked about local government, getting in contact with your local officials for the good of your projects. I promise you, the recording for that will come out, just as the recording for this one will come out. So just really excited for all of you that are the panes and the panels that are around this Zoom call. What we are going to do today, we're going to talk about visibility and marketing. And I have a central thesis, which is you hear about this tree and it being in the forest, and you hear about it falling, and if no one's around when it falls, did it really exist? Same thing about what you're doing. You don't want to be that tree in the forest that's fallen and no one hears, doesn't make a sound, that did have an impact. Not to say that stuff that's done that people don't know about isn't impactful, but if you want what you're doing to have the largest amount of impact, you want to have good works matched with good communications. And so that's about showing up. So if you don't remember anything else from this conversation, it's about making sure that your narrative and that your story is being told in a way so that your work can be seen to attract more resources, to attract more partnership, and to be able to change culture and influence folks out there so they want to join up in what you're doing. So I am joined by some colleagues, two in particular I want to highlight, but it's not about experts. We're all around the table to learn from one another. So in the spirit of collective learning, we have Julie Morris, that is our hired chief marketing officer that has done a lot around thought leadership and social media and helping folks that are want to change the world, letting them know how to show up. And so I'll have Julie, after I do the full introductions, go into what she's doing about thought leadership and having her thoughts about how to be visible. And my dear colleague, Surbi Lal, who also introduced herself, she is a guru of all things leadership, self-care, knowing thyself so you can change the world. She's also done a very cool series on LinkedIn that she will tell you about that helps raise the visibility of her work and other nonprofit folks. So what we're going to do is I'm going to allow my colleagues, I guess we'll do Julie first and then Surbi second, to talk about visibility and how to show up, and then allow everybody else who's in the room to either ask questions or talk about how they're being visible. And we'll shut this thing down by 2:30. So wanted to stop and pause to see if there are any questions before we got into proceedings. Going once, going twice, seeing that there are none. Feel free to get in the chat and to say hi or to ask questions if you don't want to ask questions live. And this is a great way to network too. So I'd also suggest put your contact information or your social media handles in the chat, because it's a great way to be seen. Absolutely. So I'll do my last bit of my spiel, and then I'm going to pass it over to Julie. So I said being seen is a way to have impact. Nonprofits, social entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs, you need to be found in order to be able to impact. If you don't already, please, for the love of God, make a LinkedIn profile. Why am I saying make a LinkedIn profile? Because that's where the money resides. A lot of folks that have institutional power and a lot of folks that have connection to resources are on LinkedIn. Yes, be on Instagram. Yes, be on Facebook. Yes, be on Twitter. But if you're talking about partnerships and finding where resources are moving, if you have some visibility on LinkedIn, at the very least, you can find Darren Walker, who runs the Ford Foundation. You'll find CEOs of corporations. You'll find state senators and assembly folks and Congress folks, like everybody under the sun, to be able to contact them to get into a conversation, to be able to be visible. So that is my one tidbit. Develop some kind of visibility, make sure that you're at the very least on LinkedIn. There are a lot of great like LinkedIn profile creation, YouTube videos and the sort. And I'm sure Julie has like a whole lecture she can give you on like how to do that. But just wanted to say, be visible and be connected, because that's the way to move the work. And without further ado, I will let Julie introduce herself and let y'all know about thought leadership and showing up.
Heck yes. Thank you so much, Rasan. It is wonderful to see you all here today. And I love that question that we just saw in the chat. Like, should I have a LinkedIn for me as well as for my business? And we will totally talk about that. That is such a good question, because if we just get esoteric and super high level, that does not help you. So answering some of those tactical, what is this thing and what do I do with it? Or how do I accomplish this on this platform? Our team is great at that. So we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to talk about the why. Why is this? Rasan, you gave such a great intro to that why, and we'll go just a little bit deeper on that too. And then a little bit of the how. We want to cover something that's really key, the interaction between you and the content you're putting out there, and how citizens can come alongside it and help amplify that content. So my colleague Charlene is going to come and do that little bit right there. So, but let's talk about, I want to see if y'all would, a show of hands. Who here is either this executive director, CEO, you are either the founder, you are the leader of the organization that you're representing? Is that you? Raise your hand. You do it right here. Okay. Wonderful. Now let's see another show of hands. Are you responsible for being the face of the nonprofit and of the brand right now? Do you think so? Raise your hand if yes. Wonderful. Y'all, it is your job description. We know that without support, we're not going to drive this mission, and nobody else can carry the torch like you can. That means even if you had, let's say like tactically, LinkedIn, should you have a brand profile and one for you? That's a good question. Let's think about that. For you, you probably are the one who's going to carry the responsibility for publicity for your organization. Thought leadership. The whole reason that I ever got into thought leadership was because we looked at marketing budgets for nonprofits and philanthropy and found that we're dumping a whole lot of money, just very plainly, I'm telling you, we're dumping a whole lot of money onto this work, building up the page or that profile of the brand. When you're small, you've only got limited resources, and the nonprofit leadership is the one that people really want to hear from. We know that as leadership goes, so goes that work. So if the leader is plugged in and talking about their success, then we know that the organization will have success. But often, we don't have a ton of time, money, energy, effort to be building that brand for the organization right now. So if you have to pick and only do one well, then it's got to be yours. That's as we think about what funders are looking for, what's philanthropy looking for. If they have a grant stack of applications this big, but they know there's only a pile of money this big, they got to allocate it to the ones that have the best chance of survival. And they know that the folks that are putting their face out there, putting their brand out there just through their own channels are highly likely going to be more successful. So don't dilute efforts. Don't have 5 social media channels. If only you can focus right now on LinkedIn, like do it there. And then maybe the next one for volunteers and for the community support aspect, maybe that is the Instagram, but try to keep the irons in the fire hot. Keep them consistent and frequent enough to where it shows that like, wow, they are moving, they are doing things, they are worth the investment. So when we start to think about, well, what do I share? What? Like, tell me, I'll share it. Just tell me what that is. Well, I like to answer it by this question. What do you do on any given Tuesday? What do you do on Tuesday? Sometimes that is very different than what your mission is. But if they don't understand what is it you actually do, then they are not going to be as excited to partner with you. So for citizens, to me, it's like they are building the leaders of the future. What we have on this call here are the leaders of tomorrow, but it's also today. We know, we're looking at the names here and we know who y'all are. But we are a micro grantor. We find the projects that are happening in the community and we fund them. We find the small businesses that are in the community building jobs and building that, the fiber of a community, and we give them grants to keep moving forward. And they go, oh, I'm in. Because like as soon as they understand what you do on a Tuesday, it all clicks. But if if they walk away from your social media, from a meeting with you, from your website, and all they understand is you empower something and transform other things, that's not sticky. That's not memorable. That doesn't make them inspired to want to come along inside and support you. That we don't even know what empowered means in a lot of contexts, right? But if they know we go to people's homes who cannot get out to find food and we bring them food, well, shoot, I want to, and that was very simple language too. We don't use a lot of jargon when it comes to sitting down and talking to someone. And especially on social media, our attention spans, I don't know about y'all, but between COVID, the economy, life in general, kids, family, day jobs, side jobs, relationships, aging parents, you name it, nobody got the bandwidth to figure out what it is that you do. We are clear and simple and gentle. And I used to say a 5th grade reading level. We want to communicate in a 5th grade reading level. No more. No. We're down to a 2nd grade reading level. Like that's about all we can handle from learning new things on the fly. And I like to say, when we're creating content for a website, the person who's reading that website, they are a mom driving in a car. They've got 2 kids in the back. They're at a red light and there's sippy cups flying and kids are crying and they just had a long day and they're worried about 10 things. And you've only got that kind of attention span to work with. So it's got to be clear. We don't have time for fluff. So social media, tell me what you do on a Tuesday. Take a picture of you at your work desk. I'm writing a million emails today, y'all, because I've got to make sure that people understand how we help. That's me. Hi. Like it's as simple as that. It can be as exciting and complex as we just did an annual report and we've got this really cool data point to share with you. Awesome. Like that helps people understand what you do. And that wins way more than some complex, fabulous mission with glitzy, glamorous marketing. Clarity wins. Simplicity wins. And just being you and being a passionate you and being a consistently passionate you, I think is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to check the chat real quick and see if anyone had thoughts and questions. Oh, thank you. I love that. Wonderful. Well, if you do have any other questions, please go ahead and drop them there. Shirlene, hi, my friend. So Shirlene works very closely with me for our CitizensNYC marketing, and I've given her just a few minutes to talk with you about something extremely important, and that is how we can partner together, you and us, to make your stuff seen and to send it out further. So without further ado, my tremendous Shirlene, tell us how they can do this magic we're describing.
Woohoo, Shirlene.
Thank you for coming. Thanks, Julie, for the intro. I will be brief. I wanted to just say, first off, social media, keep hammering home that the rules and the language are changing every day, all the time, right? So rather than be nervous or feel that you're not doing it right, I want us to think about being on social media as the introvert's revenge, so to speak. If you've been shy in every other part of your life, if you've always been awkward, I don't know what to wear, I don't know if this looks right, doesn't matter. Showing up is the most important thing, right? So the example I'll give to you and also explain how citizens can amplify any of the events that you have or awards that you're getting, and then what happens from there. We love it when you tag us. Tagging that little @ Citizens Committee or CitizensNYC on any of our platforms. And we will, not every week, but we will try and get a mix out there of every single borough of different events. It doesn't have to be a finished, those who are gardening, it doesn't have to be your finished plant. It doesn't have to be a perfect youth race. It just has to be, if that makes any sense. So I want you to tag us. And then what happens then is we reshare it and I tag other people. I want to give you the tip that people in your other community groups, they often tag their district council members. They are bold. That gets me back to like the introvert's secret weapon. They invite Alicia Heineman. They invite various other groups. And by putting yourself out there and tagging other people, you're saying, hey, I want to be part of the conversation. I might not know the perfect language. I might not have a perfect video, but I'm here, I'm doing work. It matters in my community, in my borough, and I want to connect with others and be a part of what's happening in the future. So to end my point of the trajectory of this all, you tag us at an event, or you tag us if you're in the news, local news media, Brooklyn, right, News 12, Pix 11, and we then share that, perhaps tag district people, tag other community leaders who are doing similar work. If you're doing food pantries, we might bring attention to other people doing food pantries. And then what then ends up happening is you are not only inviting yourself for future events, getting people to come to your event, you're setting yourself up to have future event planning, right? So many of you are leaders, and you're constantly also programming and planning. How great is it when someone's like, hey, I have something going on that you would be perfect for, and the partnerships come to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing to mention, two more things, Ruslan had mentioned this in the beginning about being on LinkedIn and other social media, is funders, people who give money, want to know that you're legitimate, right? So even before it's the perfect picture or the perfect video, you're legitimizing yourself. You're setting up what we call a digital footprint. You're saying, I exist, right? So even if no bells and whistles happen, if you don't get a trillion followers afterwards, doesn't matter. Because a year from now, you might apply for funding and someone says, show me your page. And the grant reviewers are reading your Instagram and saying, oh my gosh, they're out there, they're active, they're trying, right?
Yeah.
Nobody looks at numbers of followers. They look at you trying and you want to engage. And then the last thing I will say is just like applications and funding, build more funding, it's 2:20. So I'm gonna give Therapy a chance to speak. It's news and media, build more news and media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when a local news station, that's the beauty of New York City. There's so much community media, ethnic media, local media. When a news reporter or blogger sees that someone's done a story on you, surprise, surprise, 2 or 3 days later, somebody else is doing a story on you. And then it kind of grows from there, right? So I know the old school way, I'll say this because I feel like we're part of the same generation. We design a flyer, we went to the photocopy machine or the mimeograph. I love the smell of that ink, right? And then you went with the staple and you stapled all over, right? And you were strategic, right? Was it coffee houses? Was it your local bank? Was it the grocery store? Think about social media visibility and marketing in that same way.
So good.
It's just being strategic about who are you tagging, quote unquote, who are you showing your flyer to, right? There are no mistakes. Just do your best. And I promise you results will come slowly but surely.
Ooh,
I
that's
love
so
that, Charlene. Look at
good.
that. No
Yes.
mistakes. Don't make perfect the enemy of the
That's
good.
right.
Get out there and do it. So
Nailed it, Charlene. Thank you.
thank you so much, Julie and Charlene. I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell, and then we're going to go right to Serby. Boom. So we have platforms. You show us what you're doing, you can end up on one of our platforms and we can put you out there. So we have the Citizens NYC Live podcast that you can be a guest on. We have a lot of different episodes and it's a chance to talk about the work. So we had Congressperson Richie Torres talking about rights. We talked about the Foundation for Recovery with Professor Derek Hamilton and talking about philanthropy. We had one of our grantee partners, Yin Kong from Think Chinatown, talking about her work. So if you guys share what you're doing and you want to be in conversation with us and other people that are a part of the community. And then another piece is we do these Rethink and Rebuild Zooms that are conversations. So if you go to our blog, you'll get a sense of some of the things that we've done recently. We produce press releases. We produce these Rethink and Rebuild opportunities. These are platforms to get out the work that's in community. So let us know what you're doing so that we can share what you're doing to the rest of the world. Now, you might say, hey, I'm not going to be on the news. I can't control that. You know, I don't have my own podcast. I can't control that. But what you can control is some of the content that you produce. People might know your brand, but they do know and love you. And Serby realized that people know and love her. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to do these LinkedIn Lives and have conversations so folks can show up. So Serby, can you introduce yourself and tell us how you're utilizing the creation of content to make things go?
Absolutely. It's so nice to see all of your faces. My name is Serby. I do a lot of different things, but in November of 2020, I decided that I had enough of stories that were all about how leadership is failing, how it's failing us, because I was having private conversations with people who were doing amazing things in their communities. And these are folks who maybe aren't always looking for the spotlight. Maybe like Julie said, they're doing the work, but they're not always posting about the work. And I thought, you know what, I want to bring these conversations to a bigger audience. So I started a LinkedIn Live series called SIPs in Leadership, which stands for Social Impact and Public Service and Leadership, to do a number of things. One, to amplify stories that weren't getting told. Two, to show different voices and hear different voices of leadership. We in this country often think about leadership as one thing. And I think that is, you can see that not only in academic literature, but you can see that in stories, you can see that in movies. You know, we think about one person is the hero, is the leader. And I know communities of leaders. I know people who lead together. I know people who lead as a collective. And I wanted to tell different stories about leadership. So I called up a number of friends and I said, hey, will you go on LinkedIn Live with me for a half an hour and talk to me about leadership, so that we can start to create a movement of leadership that looks different than what we think of and we see in the popular media. And what it's allowed folks to do is to be able to share their story in ways that they haven't been able to, because it's a little bit longer form. And two, it is, and here we are, you know, it's a way too for me to talk about the really good work that's happening in community. The other thing that I really feel around leadership is that a lot of the leadership things that you read and things like Harvard Business Review are focused on corporate. But there's amazing work happening in communities and nonprofit spaces and social impact spaces. And so there needed to be a place for us to share those stories. So Unique is a great example. We talked about leadership as soul work. And so for her, it comes from a deep place in her soul. Rasan and I talked about all sorts of things. You need to go to his episode to check out his fashion that day. He had an amazing jacket. But also, you know, what does it mean to lead in this time? And so again, I always say to the people that I'm talking to, this is like we're at a coffee shop and somebody's overhearing our conversation. It's not buttoned up. It's not rehearsed. It is genuine, authentic, and real conversations about how leadership shows up, what change people are hoping to make. And I always ask people at the end, what is their shameless plug? And some of that is to really find out what it is that we want to ask people, because you often don't get an invitation. We've had people talk about fundraising. We've had people talk about being active in voting. We've had people talk about all sorts of things. So for me, it's been a great joy to have these conversations and really have conversations that aren't happening in the mainstream.
Amazing. So shameless plug, find Serby on LinkedIn, become her friend, be connected, and she might ask you to be a guest on one of her conversations. A great way to get your work out there and a great way to just practice thought leadership and just being in community, because you never know. You start running your mouth and then everything becomes possible. So we have 3 minutes officially. We can go like to whatever 2:35 if folks have questions, but just would love to know what folks are thinking, what landed on them, what questions they might have from this conversation. And asking a question is also a great way to get visibility too, folks. So even if you really, I mean, if it's like partially formed question, like who cares? Like you got visibility.
Hi, it's Susan. I wanted to say that this is fabulous. I almost missed it. I just checked my email earlier because I had my granddaughter overnight. So I'm so glad that I could connect with you guys. It's great. Everything I heard is so awesome. And I'm gonna connect with everyone, and I hope that we can work together.
Well,
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Susan, you named it and you heard what Charlene said. The number one way to do is post on one of your social media and
Mhm.
like tag Citizens Committee, at
Mhm. Yes.
literally Charlene will probably be the one that finds it, identifies it, and can
Mhm.
share. And, they talk about amplification, and it's been talked a lot, I think, in feminism and women within the workplace. And, if
Mhm.
one woman says something and so the mansplain doesn't just suck it up into the vacuum, that's another woman or someone else like repeats what the other person said and it gets it amplified. I
Mhm.
think that works a lot socially. Like if like-minded people like and share and reshare what folks do, then it gets it to a broader audience. So we got to be there for each other. And that's what this is all about.
Absolutely, Dr. Harris. Again, thank you for this invite. I love this.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to working with you guys.
Amazing. Anybody
Hi.
else?
Hi, Dr. Harris. This is Jun from Can International. So we are a non-for-profit that started incorporated last year. Our mission is just like focus on like mentoring for the immigrant youth. So I'm wondering if like the citizen committee has sort of like the forum to allow people to ask questions, and so also for people to share experience or bounce ideas. Just for now, I like, let's say I'm looking for input in terms of how we can do a better job in terms of like community building. So I just need some sort of idea. I'm sure like there's a lot of like great non-for-profit out there has some insight or like idea to share. So I'm wondering, is there any like forum or opportunity or channel that we can do that?
No, thank you. So we create these forums that are called borough huddles. We also have office hours with some of our program folks. And, for those who were on earlier, you saw some of our Rethink and Rebuild. All of those forums, if we're doing in Zoom in particular, we have opportunities to do breakout rooms and have questions answered live. And what we really want to do is connect applicants and some of our, folks that have gotten our grants. We don't prioritize one or the other. Just because you got a grant from us doesn't mean that you're better from someone that didn't get a grant. There's just so many good ideas, and it's impossible to fund everything. We really want people to benefit from knowing each other and from like hearing each other's ideas. So what you said is exactly right. We can create rooms within those conversations where folks can talk to one another, ask each other questions, and get feedback, whether that's with our staff or with other folks. So just thank you for asking that question. Again, reach out to Charlene, because she can make sure, or at us at one of the platforms, and we can make sure that you're on our list so that you can sign up for some of the events that we have and this be in conversation. So thanks, Jen.
Yeah, so that's why I was able to connect with Katie from your team. So that's why I found out this is a great opportunity. So yeah, it's great to see everyone, to hear your fabulous like social media tips.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. Folks, so we're at 2:32. I'll give someone else a chance to raise their hand.
Is there any way we can get a copy of this?
For sure, we are recording because this whole series is going to go out. So the one that you missed on government stuff, that Andres did such a great job of talking about how to connect with your local elected officials, you'll get that one. You'll get this one, and you'll get the next one, which will be about grassroots fundraising, how to get the money, honey. So that's what we're about. So we want to definitely share it. So thank you so much. I see you laughing at me, Natasha. Don't do it. Don't do it. Awesome. All right. Well, if all hearts and minds are clear, I just appreciate y'all lifting y'all up in love. Do what you do because New York City needs you. And we will see you the next time. So thanks so much for showing up, and check the chat. I'm gonna put my email in there one last time so that if you missed anything, you can holler at me. All right. Have a great day and stay cool out there.